Imagine a golden empire, the most powerful civilization the world had ever seen. An empire of roads and legions, law and order, marble and steel. For nearly 2 centuries, Rome had stood unshaken. But then, one man nearly brought it all crashing down. A man born in a palace, raised by a philosopher-king, and yet destined to become one of the most destructive rulers in Roman history. This is the story of Commodus, the mad emperor who nearly destroyed the Roman Empire. Let's go back to a time known as the Pax Romana, the Roman peace, a 200-year stretch of relative stability beginning with Augustus in 27 BC. For the average Roman, life under the Pax Romana meant protection, prosperity, and pride. Rome ruled an empire stretching from the windswept hills of Britain to the deserts of Egypt. And much of that peace, much of that greatness, was thanks to the wisdom of her rulers. They were called the 5 good emperors: Nerva, Trajan, Hadrian, Antoninus Pius, and finally, Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius was a philosopher first, a soldier second. He believed in duty, discipline, and the Stoic virtues. While he defended the empire's borders from Germanic tribes, he also kept a personal journal, the Meditations, still read and admired today. But Marcus Aurelius did something the other good emperors did not. He broke the chain of merit-based succession. Instead of adopting a capable heir, he passed the throne to his biological son. His name was Commodus. At first, there was hope. Commodus was only 15 when he was named co-emperor alongside his father. He accompanied Marcus on military campaigns, sat beside him in council, but from the beginning, there were troubling signs. He was arrogant. He disliked the battlefield. He cared more for gladiators than governors. He wanted to be adored, not obeyed. Born in 161 AD, Commodus grew up in immense luxury. He was surrounded by servants, tutors, and guards. His every whim was catered to, and few ever dared to correct or challenge him. Unlike his father, who had earned power through thought and toil, Commodus was born into it, and he expected the world to bow. In 180 AD, Marcus Aurelius died in the cold, marshy north, likely of plague, and with his death, Rome changed, because the philosopher was gone, and the tyrant had arrived. Commodus returned to Rome like a boy who had inherited a kingdom he neither earned nor understood, and now, for the first time in generations, Rome was led not by a man shaped by hardship, but by a spoiled child of privilege. He abandoned his father's wars. He distanced himself from the Senate, and he surrounded himself with flatterers, yes-men, and sycophants. He declared that the new age of Rome would begin with him. He even renamed the months of the year, one of them, Commodus. And then came the games. While Rome's infrastructure crumbled, its emperor paraded through the Colosseum dressed as Hercules, wielding a club and wearing a lion's pelt. He would enter the arena, not as a spectator, but as a gladiator. He fought animals, he fought slaves. Sometimes he simply executed wounded soldiers dressed up for sport. To Commodus, the arena was more than entertainment. It was the theater of his ego. He once claimed to have personally slain hundreds of wild animals, lions, ostriches, even hippos, all while being cheered by tens of thousands. But it wasn't just about bloodshed, it was about performance. He demanded applause, he demanded worship. But of course, he never actually risked his life. The fights were rigged. His opponents used wooden swords. He was paid, by the Roman treasury, for each victory, 10,000 sesterces per fight. The Senate was humiliated, the people were confused, but few dared speak out. Because Commodus had no tolerance for dissent, he unleashed a reign of terror. Senators were executed for treason on the thinnest of suspicion. Some were killed simply for looking the wrong way. He had his sister killed, his wife, his advisors. He trusted no one, and no one trusted him. Assassination attempts came and went, and each one only made him more paranoid, more violent, more detached. He abandoned state affairs to his chamberlain, a man named Cleander, who sold public offices to the highest bidder. Rome was no longer ruled, it was auctioned. Bribes replaced merit, incompetence replaced discipline, and corruption oozed through every level of government. Under Commodus, the economy collapsed. Inflation ran rampant, the grain supply dried up, the provinces were neglected, the army became restless, and Rome's great illusion of eternal strength began to crack. But Commodus didn't see the cracks, or maybe he just didn't care. He believed himself divine. He was Hercules. He was Rome. He declared himself the new founder of the empire, renaming Rome itself, Colonia Commodiana, the colony of Commodus. He had statues built of himself as a god. He He demanded worship. He signed official documents not as emperor or Caesar, but as Lucius Aelius Aurelius Commodus Augustus Herculeus Romanus Exuperatorius Amazonius Invictus Felix Pius. Seriously. And yet, the more powerful he claimed to be, the more isolated he became. The palace turned into a fortress. He stopped appearing in public except for the games. He ruled from shadows and whispers, seeing enemies in every corner. But in the end, even gods can bleed. And in 192 AD, after 12 long chaotic years, Commodus went too far. He planned to take part in Rome's New Year's Day festivities, not as a ruler, but dressed as a gladiator. In the eyes of the Senate, this wasn't just madness, it was sacrilege. It was the final insult. They knew he had to die. And so his inner circle turned on him. His concubine Marcia poisoned his wine, but he vomited it up. Then, a wrestler named Narcissus was sent into his chambers. Commodus, drunk and dazed, was strangled to death in his bath. Just like that, the empire was free of him, but Rome would never be the same. Commodus's death did not bring peace, it brought chaos. Within a year, Rome saw 5 different emperors. Civil war erupted, generals turned against each other. The crisis of the 3rd century was just decades away. Commodus had shattered the illusion of stable succession. He had reminded the world that an emperor's madness could become the empire's doom. He didn't just inherit Rome, he almost buried it. So when we remember the great emperors, the builders, the thinkers, the warriors, we must also remember the destroyers, the vain, the cruel, the deranged. We must remember Commodus, because even in the greatest empire on earth, one madman can set fire to the world.